Hello and welcome to Para New Orleans, the Paranormal New Orleans podcast, where we tell tales of the strange, the spooky, the otherworldly, and the unexplained from across the greater New Orleans area, Louisiana, and beyond. This is season 3, episode 6. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Para New Orleans. I'd worked in nursing homes for 21 years. I've seen a lot of things, a lot of death, a lot of pain, suffering, a lot of ghosts, lost memories, people forgotten. It's part of the reason why I chose to work in nursing homes when I became a nurse. I wanted to comfort those who had been forgotten, left behind by families, those who barely had any memories of their own to hold on to, those who needed help remembering who they were. It was my calling after taking care of my own grandparents, but thankfully they had family who loved them and wanted to give them the best care possible. You won't understand unless you've seen it with your own eyes, unless you've been in the trenches with it, just how devastating it is for someone to be tossed into a place under the guise that this is what's best for them. It's heartbreaking. But you do what you can to make the days light and to add love where there's a lack of it. This is about a patient, Miss Pearline, a sweet grandmother, brought in by her family at the age of 86. She was starting to have serious memory loss and was beginning to wander. I wasn't under the impression that they were just dumping her there. I was under the impression that it was really one of those situations where they could not handle it. They had very busy lives, children. I mean, the family was running on limited resources. So they brought Miss Pearline into our care home. It was an adjustment for her, for sure. But eventually, she became used to seeing our faces. She would come out of her room in the morning, greet everyone who walked by. She was really a very sweet old lady until she wasn't. For the first year, that was her routine. She ate her breakfast at a particular time. She would walk up and down the halls greeting people, stopping occasionally for a conversation with another resident. She had a snack at a certain time. She had dinner at a certain time and was in bed at a certain time. And all seemed well with Miss Pearline. And then things began to change. Some of the residents started saying that Pearline was coming into their room at night. She was moving their stuff around, or she would just stand in a corner staring at them. Others even said that they watched her fade in and out of certain places. Now, this is a memory care home. So it's expected that they are going to hallucinate or misremember things. We brushed it off for quite some time until one of the nurses had her own experience. Now, this nurse was, again, very experienced, had been on the job for years, loved her patients, took very good care of them. So there was no reason to believe that she was making something up or that something was wrong with her. One very early morning, she called the duty nurse who was on the other end of the hall checking in on the residents. She was petrified with fear. The only reason she said she didn't scream at the top of her lungs was because she was being considerate of the other residents. She had walked into Miss Pearline's room and found her walking on the ceiling. Now, it sounds bad. It sounds strange. It sounds impossible, I know. But I'm telling you, this nurse is not one to lie. She wouldn't just make something like that up. And I sincerely wish that she had been believed. By the time the duty nurse got to her end of the hall, Pearline was in bed, sleeping like a baby. The other nurse was pale. All the blood had run from her face. She described again and again and again and again and again what she witnessed, and her tale never changed, never deviated. Miss Pearline was walking on the ceiling. She was drug tested, given a psych eval, all the things. And then they quietly fired her. Things were quiet again for a few months. People forgot about the incident with Miss Pearline. That was until a couple of new nurses were working on the night shift. They had done their rounds, checked the residents, made sure everyone was in bed, made sure everyone was sleeping. They were sitting at their station, doing notes, making small talk. And all of a sudden, the lights start flashing on and off. Now, this building was relatively new, in great condition, so there was no reason for it to have electrical problems. It had never had electrical problems before, but now all of a sudden, they said that that happened for about 15 minutes, and then things went back to normal. They said the strangest thing, though, after the lights finished flashing, there was a stench of burned hair in the air that lingered for about an hour. They couldn't explain it. They went and checked every resident up close, checked plugs, televisions, everything. And they couldn't find the source. What they did say, though, is when they got to Pearline's room to check on her, she was lying in bed, eyes wide open, staring straight up at the ceiling. They thought for a moment she was dead, had it not been for the rapid rise and fall, rise and fall, rise and fall of her chest while she breathed. One of the nurses touched her, and she said Miss Pearline's skin was so hot, it felt like she had touched fire. When they tried to take her temperature, check her pulse, blood pressure. She growled at them. Those two nurses never came back. And still, the managers at the care home didn't investigate any further. I wish they had. I truly wish they had. Some more weeks pass and things are calm. New staff, of course. No one is talking about the incidents with Miss Pearline. And during the day, she is a pleasant old woman making her rounds, talking with the other residents. And at night, something evil arises. They couldn't keep anyone on night shift, so of course, they asked me to step in until they could find someone. I happily agreed because why not? I love my residents. I too was skeptical about the things they said at first, because what other explanation could there possibly be? None of the things that were reported made sense. Miss Pearline was a fragile old woman, no taller than 5 feet, quiet with a pleasant smile, beautiful eyes. She carried peppermint candy in the pocket of her house dress. That's not evil. But I've learned that evil takes many forms, many disguises. I started the night shift, and again, things were quiet for a while. And then one night, about 2 a.m., I'm sitting at the station and I'm making my notes. Everything is quiet. And then I hear a faint whispering from down the hall. I listen, put my pen down just to make sure. And along with the whispering is shuffling feet, like someone is headed in my direction. Now, this is not unheard of because, again, this is a memory care facility. We do have residents who wander at night. I got up from my desk, looked down one end of the hall, and then the other, and I didn't see anyone, but I still heard the whispering and I still heard the shuffling feet. I was bewildered because where was this coming from? I turned back to my desk to grab the radio to call one of the other staff. And when I turned back around, there was Miss Pearline standing close to me. Where the hell did she come from? It's like she just appeared out of nowhere. She was staring, eyes wide and dark. Nothing like the light filled eyes that she has during the day. Her mouth pulled back in a heinous grin and growling at me. I spoke to her softly, Miss Pearline. Let's get you back to bed, darling. And when I grabbed for her arm, it was so hot, I had to pull my hand back. I said her name again, Miss Pearline. Let's go back to bed, honey. And her mouth opened wide. I am the nothing. I am the nothing. I am the darkness itself. And you are damned to hell, dearie. You are damned to hell with the rest of us demons. Would you like a piece of peppermint candy? I have some right here in my pocket, dearie. Oh, 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 Jesus Christ, oh my God. I grabbed for the radio. Nothing but static. I tried to get away. I backed away and I started praying. And she just kept staring at me. Would you like a piece of peppermint candy, dearie? It's just peppermint candy. It won't hurt you. Dear God in heaven, dear God in heaven, please help me. He can't help you. I felt like my feet were heavy like cinder blocks. I continued to pray. I continued to pray until finally Finally, I could scream. I could scream. I screamed as loudly as I could. And then she just disappeared into a wisp of black smoke. I grabbed the radio and I called for anybody, security, anybody, nurses from another wing, anybody. By the time they made it, we went to check on Pearline. She was in bed, sleeping. No sign of whatever she was before. I was hysterical. They sat me down and asked me what happened. I tried my best to tell them, but it just sounded so crazy. I decided I needed a few days off. I contacted Pearline's family to see if there were any answers. No one returned my call. No one responded to my text messages. And when I went to the two addresses we had on file, both houses were empty. That is why Pearline ended up in our care home. Because whatever she had become, they either didn't want to acknowledge it and chose to ignore it, or they just couldn't deal with it anymore. Eventually, I went back to work. For a long time, I would not care for Pearline alone, even though during the day she seemed to be normal. At night, it was a different story. There was one evening, one of our residents unfortunately passed, and it was all hands on deck at that point. So I had no choice but to be there. I settled the residents down, did the necessary paperwork. Pearline stayed staring at me from the doorway of her room, still looking normal, still looking like herself. I tried to ignore her, but something compelled me to go to her. Something compelled me to go talk to her. I felt like I was floating, being pulled towards her. I got outside of her doorway, and she smiled, that familiar Miss Pearline comforting smile. She reached into her pocket and she handed me a peppermint candy. I took it. I smiled back at her, and I placed it in my mouth, even though everything in me was screaming to put it down and get away from her. There was something so mesmerizing about her eyes, about her smile. It's like she was reaching into my mind. It was the best peppermint candy I'd ever tasted. It's also the last thing I remember before 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 I became the nothing too. Would you like a piece of peppermint candy, dearie? A piece of peppermint candy. I think it's safe to say, don't take any peppermint candy from anyone, especially from an old lady. This has been Season 3, Episode 6 of Paranorleans, the Paranormal New Orleans podcast. I am your hostess, Fat Girl Freestyle. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. We are taking it all the way to the end of the year. If you would be so kind, please make sure you are subscribed to the Fat Girl Freestyle YouTube channel. You can also follow Fat Girl Freestyle on Instagram. If you feel compelled to support this independent operation, you can make a donation via Venmo at Fat Girl Freestyle or to Zelle, fatgirlfreestyle@gmail.com. Once again, I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Please remember to share our podcast episodes. Please remember to tell your friends, family, coworkers, strangers in line at the grocery store about the Paranorleans podcast. Again, thank you for joining Paranorleans Season 3, Episode 6. Bye-bye.